Bellows and Bellas, welcome to Moxie Witz, episode 7. We have a lot to discuss, so buckle up because we are in for a ride. Mortgage rates took home buyers on a roller coaster ride in 2023. Just a couple of months ago, mortgage rates rose to 8% for the first time since 2000. And today, we're seeing an average of 6.5%, which really is a significant difference. I mean, imagine being that person who bought a house last October. Yikes. Ouch. According to the ratings agency Fitch, 88% of the housing market is still overvalued. 88%. And with all this uncertainty, there are some folks praying for a real estate crash. So, they could use it to their advantage. At some point in the future, a real estate crash is inevitable. I will tell you that. So, with that said, we are going to be discussing what's happening in the market, the chance of a real estate crash happening sometime soon, how bad it will be if it does happen, and what you could do to ensure you're coming out ahead. We're blowing up spots to bring you the facts. Without further delay, let's slide right in. 2023, it was full of surprises. We had a soaring stock market defying constant expectations of doom and gloom from these trusted experts, right? How many people on Wall Street got this wrong, right? We had historically low unemployment rates and a strong job market refusing to quit despite higher interest rates from the Fed. And then we had a painfully difficult housing market, which was largely frozen in place due to several factors. State mortgage rates, elevated home prices, unaffordability, limited inventory, and high construction and labor costs, right? You have home sales that hit a 13-year low. And according to a report from the National Realtors Association, the pending home sales rate dropped to the lowest number ever recorded for the metric since the trade group began tracking it in 2001. This housing market in 2023 was unlike anything we've seen before. Real estate agents faced increased competition due to the low market activity. And according to a monthly report by Alignable, 45% of real estate agents who own their own firms said they had trouble paying rent on their offices in November. Crazy. So some experts think it's just a housing market correction that's going on, while others believe we are about to experience a housing market crash. So what's the difference, right? What's a housing market correction and what's a housing market crash? Because you hear these terms being thrown around left and right? A housing market correction occurs when home prices drop typically by 10%. Okay? And it's gradual and it's usually over 6 months or more. The use of the term correction indicates that prices have in some way become unsustainable. So the market is correcting itself to better fit with affordability, demand, and supply. A housing market crash, on the other hand, right, is a sharp and sudden decline in real estate values at 20% or more that typically follows a period of inflated housing prices, right, aka a housing bubble. A crash is generally caused by a slowing economy, tighter credit standards, and or interest rates, which, in a correction, you see that as well. But a crash is caused by these housing bubbles with slowing economy and people start losing their jobs, right? Because it has a domino effect, really. And in addition, a market crash It usually leads to foreclosures as borrowers can no longer afford their mortgage payments, may be forced to give up their homes. This can have a ripple effect on the economy, as foreclosures often lead to lower property values in the surrounding area. In the Great Recession, the housing market crashed. We could go over that in a separate video, but housing prices crashed at 30% and more. So um, it was insane times, and a lot of people lost their homes. Generally, there's an oversupply of homes and not enough buyers in the market buying those homes and condos. I think both can be said for, the housing market correction and a crash. What would an oversupply of homes look like in a real estate market crash? You're looking at 20% or more in decline rapidly, okay, of home values. And in regards to the supply, what would an oversupply of homes look like? It would probably look like 7 months and above in months of inventory. You start reaching 7 months, that's definitely a buyer's market, and we had been seeing a seller's market. So let's talk about inventory. So inventory, it's been a huge issue, right? That's what everybody's been saying. There's a lack of inventory, there's not enough homes, yada yada. I mean, there's reports stating that there's just not enough supply for the growing population in the US because not enough new homes were being built, right? Due to high prices in construction and labor. And according to a report from Redfin, 91.8% of current homeowners right now are locked in at a rate that's less than 6%. So 82.4% of homeowners have a mortgage rate below 5%, and 62% have a rate below 4%. I mean, 23.5% of homeowners actually have a mortgage rate below 3%, which is almost the highest proportion with a rate that low on record. These people that have these rates, these very favorable rates locked in, they don't have any incentive to sell right now. They're not going to sell unless they have to, which most of them have at least 20% of equity in their home. So let's talk about the new construction. According to some articles, October allegedly saw a 3.6-month supply of housing inventory, still below the 5 to 6 month needed for a healthy, balanced market, one that favors neither buyers nor sellers. That's complete cap. According to Forbes, new home construction unexpectedly rises to 6-month high as slipping mortgage rates boost housing market. That's another headline that's just completely wrong. I mean, a flood of homes just hit the housing market. A report from the US Census Bureau reveals that the number is not 6 months, it's actually 9.2 months of supply. And shout out to RJ Talks because he was actually tracking this very carefully. And according to him, I'm not going to go on the record and say this, but according to him, there are some big builders who purposefully have been hoarding new houses because they're trying to maintain price control to prevent a crash in prices. And they unloaded a significant amount of homes in November.
Been looking at new homes under construction for the last year, and we've all known that these big builders are purposefully hoarding new houses, trying to maintain price control, prevent a crash in prices, as market pricing is usually set by home builders, especially in builder-centric markets. If a big builder chooses to cut prices on all their homes by 5%, let's say, because they want to unload them, that's the type of thing that can move the market. Remember this from last year? These are the homes under construction that we've been looking at during 2022 and 2023, the single family units that were under construction all last year, which typically, by the way, takes around 7 months to complete a single family unit. That's the average length of time from when they break ground to that unit moving to a housing completion, from a housing start to a housing completion, around 7 months. Well, look what just happened in the U.S. Census Bureau's latest data dump for new homes for sale. This is the press release that they sent out. Here's what they say. The sales of new single family houses in November 2023 were at a seasonally adjusted annual rate of 590,000, according to the U.S. Census Bureau and to HUD. So basically, how many new homes they sold in November was 12.2% below the revised October number of 672,000. So it fell from 672,000 to 590,000. That's 12% below October. The median sales price for all of these 590,000 new homes was 434,000. But look at this. How many new houses were for sale at the end of November? 451,000, folks. This represents a staggering 9.2 months supply. You can see it on this chart. Look at the spike in new homes that hit the market in November. And what you'll also notice is what normally happens whenever we see levels like this. You tend to see them match up with recessions. You can see the recessions on this chart. It's the red bar. We have the COVID recession, great financial crisis recession, the dot-com crash, etc. This tends to be the case because builders overbuild during the boom years and they try to unload them before the market busts. So could this be why we saw a massive crash in home prices, in new home prices rather? The median sale price for new homes last month fell to $434,000. That's 12.5% below the peak of the market 1 year prior in October 2022. It's a big fall. But something to keep in mind is all of this data is just for new homes, not existing homes. The number of existing single family units, single family homes in America is ridiculous, by the way. I think there's around like 80 million or 82 million or something. We don't have a supply issue in the States. We have an active listing issue. Out of the 82 million existing houses in the US, only around 750,000 of them are listed for sale right now, which I'm going to show you in a minute because that's important too. When you look overall at active listings right now, we just broke through a 3-year high, or we just broke to a 3-year high. But first, look how many homes these home builders dumped onto the market, folks. All this is happening in a single month, by the way. That's how quickly month supply can change. In 1 month, in a single month, it jumped from 7.2 to 9.2 months supply. Here's the markets that are crashing right now. Anything down around 15% qualifies, right? Well, here's what we have at present. Not many, but we have some. Largest peak to trough price drops. We have New York County, New York, down 22%. Williamson County, Texas, down 16%. Travis County, Texas, the Austin area, down 15%. Bronx County, down 15%. Cambria County, Pennsylvania, down 14%. San Francisco County, California, down 15%. And that's with the lack of listings. Actually, look at all the California markets that have prices down a lot. Look at all these counties: San Francisco, San Mateo County, Alameda County, Butte County, Contra Costa County, California. 6 of the largest price drops are in California. So imagine what this would look like when we start seeing active listings normalizing here. And if we scroll down a bit more, we can see active listings on a national level just reached a 3-year high. We're now at 752,000 active listings, according to Realtor.com, for November. So we only need about 300,000 more to reach pre-pandemic numbers nationally. When the Fed begins cutting rates this year, which I believe they will, I don't know if they're going to cut in March or in June, but they're most definitely going to cut at some point this year. And when they do, and mortgage rates continue falling, we'll likely see active listings jump. Now, what's the magic number? Is it 6% mortgage rates? Is it 5, 4%? I don't know. Like, what's the number when all the sellers who've been holding back, staying on the sidelines, biding their time until rates fall before listing their homes? Well, in our research database, we have a note from Double Line Capital, the founder of which is Jeffrey Gundlach, which I found pretty interesting the other day. Take a look at this. Their chief investment officer writes this: twist of irony. I believe lower mortgage rates could actually soften home prices. More affordable financing could incentivize would be sellers who've been stubbornly locked into 3 to 4% mortgages. There's a magic number, though, for fixed mortgage rates that I think would unfreeze the housing market. In other words, a price bringing together willing buyers and sellers, a market clearing price. By my sites, the number has a 5% handle. The supply and transaction volume unleashed by mortgage rates in the 5% zone might decrease home prices nationwide or at least flatten them. The effect on home prices also will depend on whether the lower mortgage rate unleashes more buyers or sellers. Another consideration, pent up demographic demand might lurk out there, overlooked, ready to extend the march to higher prices. That's possible, but it's not my base case, he says. So Double Line Capital says that the magic number is 5%, a 5% mortgage rate. Well, I'll tell you, in all the data that comes into SnapForce, I'm already seeing an uptick in sellers, not an uptick in buyers with these lower rates. And we're only at 6.5%. Only time will tell, but it's a good start to 2024.
RJ Talks. I'm actually going to drop a link to his channel in the description below. I found this information very informative. I really like the way he tracked it. There are some things that I agree with. There are some things that I don't agree with. The peak to trough, like this is crashing right now and 15%. Like, I think that, there's more of a market correction there. And I'm going to keep it real. If I thought there was just a straight up crash right now, um, I would tell you, like, the office market, it's crashing. I'm going to go over those numbers just briefly, and then I'm really going to go into, more commercial real estate on another video. A report from Green Street, which is a commercial real estate analytics company, shows the average per square foot price changes for top office markets. So check this out. And this is a real crash. I mean, they're showing the price change between 1 year, which is like, it's rapid. And this is well over 20%. San Francisco, negative 58.9%. Chicago, negative 48.3%. San Jose, negative 48%. Philadelphia, negative 45.1%. Los Angeles, negative 44.6%. Orange County, negative 38.4%. Dallas Fort Worth, negative 37.6%. New York, negative 37.3%. Austin, negative 31.5%. Boston, negative 24.2%. So, that is a full on real estate market crash in the office sector. And unfortunately, there will be foreclosures. Already, there's big corporate landlords like Blackstone defaulting on mortgages of commercial properties across America. It's actually a 1.4 million square foot office complex, which is one of several big properties that Blackstone has stopped making payments on and could hand back to the lender. And they've been handing these properties back, allegedly, according to some of these articles. But yeah, I mean, these defaults are causing like commercial property values to drop, especially obviously the office sector. I mean, the office is down 35% from peak on the average. And in cities like San Francisco, values are down by nearly 60%. Yeah, negative 58.9. I mean, it's insane. Like, this is clearly indicating a huge crash. And we know why it is. Like, after the pandemic, the office market has never been the same. A lot of companies are not really forcing their employees to show up 5 days a week. They don't have to. There is that conversion. So policymakers in cities including DC, New York, and San Francisco are taking actions to revitalize their downtowns through commercial to residential conversions, including vacant offices, hotels, and other non-office commercial spaces. It's wonderful. Since the pandemic began, nearly 1,500 residences in new buildings and conversions have been added in the neighborhood of FIDI. So thousands more are expected in the coming years, including in what is considered the country's largest conversion. 1,300 apartments in an office tower vacated by JP Morgan Chase in early 2021. New York City, like, we do have a housing shortage. For all the talk about just converting New York City's languishing office buildings into housing, like, really just one neighborhood has done it in a large scale, right? Which is the financial district. And I mean, I'm a New Yorker. I remember, I mean, I was very, very young when this happened, but um, the transformation of the financial district grew out of two setbacks, which was the exodus of banks and insurance companies from lower Manhattan to Midtown and the September 11 attack. So, they've led to suited 9 to 5 workers being steadily replaced by parents pushing strollers, according to the New York Times. And you know what? They're absolutely right. All of Wall Street was, down in Wall Street, the financial district, right? And yeah, there's a lot of residential, beautiful buildings. Um, and it's just been easier to transform. Even Tribeca, too. Like, Tribeca was like all like, industrial back in the day, right? But nobody has done it like FIDI. So that's, a glimmer of hope to save the office sector, to turn it into, more affordable housing, just to save, the issues that in New York City is currently facing. The price of a typical home in America skyrocketed in June, which is the second highest recorded in 24 years. The median price cooled this October. That's still 40% higher than pre-pandemic levels, which was October 2019. People that bought, during the pandemic, those homes on the average, they went up 44%. And now they're 40% higher, but these numbers clearly don't make sense. Also, just that influx of just new homes on the market, 9.2 months of supply. Anything above 7 months supply, that is a buyer's market. RJ talks, he thinks we have a listing issue. He might be onto something. There are off market deals, and that occurs for different reasons. You have off market deals because the landlord or the developer doesn't want to pay a broker. Let's say they just want to go straight to the consumer. Another reason why owner, developer, builder, they don't want to take that risk in having their asset just sit on the market, because that's the thing. Those days start accumulating, right? You see? And then what happens is that the property, the home, and this is in commercial real estate too, the listing becomes stale. People start thinking, oh my God, there's something wrong with it. So there is some shadow inventory out there. There are off market deals that happen all the time. But this is slightly different. This is housing, and with all of this rhetoric, right? And sentiment that, there's a lack of supply with all of these homes that just, came available. I think it's crazy. I mean, in 2021 and also in late 2020, there were people just buying homes sight unseen, and they were overpaying, and there were bidding wars, and the interest rates were like, you know 3%, or slightly below 3%. I mean, this was mayhem. So um yeah, and that's what causes a bubble, though, right? When you see that rapid just demand, not enough supply. There are people that were able to lock in very good deals and very good mortgage rates. With that being said, there are others that really overpaid. Yes, they're locked in at a good rate, but word on the street is that there's uh, a good amount of people that can't afford their homes. With that being said, the rate of just upcoming foreclosures is not alarming yet. So do I see a crash coming? A straight up uh housing market crash? No, I think there's more of a housing market correction, which is a much needed correction. Especially now with all of these new homes that hit the market. Um, I'm glad to hear that these developers are actually cutting prices. Now we just need these mortgage rates to come down. Like, that has been a huge problem. So last month's Fed meeting, right? The minutes were released this week. With inflation seemingly cooling down and under control, the Fed signaled that it could begin cutting interest rates in 2024, likely around mid-year. That's what was said. While the Fed doesn't directly determine mortgage rates, right? It's likely that lenders will again follow the Fed's lead. That's usually the way it works. It goes hand in hand. Greg McBride, Bankrate's chief financial analyst, expects rates to fall gradually throughout the year, reaching 5.75% by the end of 2024. So, according to him, mortgage rates will spend the bulk of the year in the sixes, with movement below 6% confined to the back half of the year. Jerome Powell, get those interest rates down. Inflation is definitely much more under control than what it was. It's not where Jerome Powell wants it to be at that 2%, but you have to, because if the interest rates don't come down, like, we're really going to be forced into like a major recession. Then there'll be a crash. So yeah, we need those interest rates to come down as soon as possible, because this is just not making sense. The prices are too high, the interest rates are insane. It's just too much. Just not sustainable, and everybody feels it.